It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon when Marcus Silver walked through the downtown streets with only $5 in his pocket and a heart full of dreams that seemed increasingly distant. At 23 years old, he worked as a food delivery driver, pedaling his old bicycle for more than 12 hours a day just to afford the rent for a small room in a boarding house. His clothes were worn out, his torn shoes let the rainwater in, but his eyes still shone with a determination that poverty couldn't extinguish. What Marcus didn't know was that in just a few minutes, his life would change completely in a way he could never imagine. The story you're about to hear is so incredible that if it weren't true, you'd think it was fiction. It's the story of how a simple act of courage can change not just one life, but two destinies completely. Marcus had grown up in the poorest streets of the city, son of a single mother who worked as a housekeeper and had sacrificed everything to give him the best education possible. Since he was 15, Marcus had worked all kinds of jobs to help. At home, he had sold candy in the subway, washed cars at traffic lights, worked construction during weekends, but he had never lost hope that someday he could have something better. While pedaling down Main Avenue, trying to make his last deliveries of the day, Marcus heard desperate screams coming from a dark alley. His first reaction was to speed up and keep going. After all, on the streets you learn that getting involved in other people's problems can cost you dearly. But something in the tone of those screams made him stop. It was a female voice, delicate, asking for help in a way that touched his heart. Marcus parked his bicycle and ran toward the sound, not knowing he was about to meet someone who would change his life forever. In the alley, 3 men were cornering a young woman against the wall. She was dressed simply, with clothes that seemed ordinary, but there was something in her posture, in her gaze, that immediately caught Marcus's attention. She was beautiful, with long brown hair and green eyes that even in desperation maintained an impressive inner strength. The attackers demanded her purse and jewelry, but she refused to hand over something specific she was carrying. Marcus didn't think twice. Even though he was smaller than the criminals and had no fighting training, he shouted loudly to draw attention and began running toward the group. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between your own safety and helping a stranger? Comment below what you would do in Marcus's place, because what happened next will show how an act of courage can literally change the course of an entire life. The attackers were startled by Marcus's unexpected arrival and the noise he was making. One of them pulled out a knife and advanced toward him, but Marcus managed to dodge and push the man against a dumpster. The other 2, seeing that the situation was getting complicated and that other people might appear at any moment, decided to run away. The 3rd man quickly got up and also ran off, leaving Marcus and the mysterious woman alone in the alley. She was trembling, not from fear, but from adrenaline and gratitude. Her eyes filled with tears as she looked at this thin young man, soaked by rain, who had risked his own life to save her. Isabella Montenegro, at 26 years old, was heiress to one of the country's largest business empires. Her family controlled everything from luxury hotel chains to technology companies that moved billions of dollars annually. But at that moment, dressed in simple clothes, because she had snuck out of home to have a moment of normalcy away from bodyguards and protocols. She was just a woman who had just been saved by an unlikely hero. She didn't say who she was, just thanked him profusely, and asked how she could repay Marcus's kindness. Marcus, still panting and with his heart racing, said he didn't need anything in return, that he had only done what any decent person would do. Isabella insisted on at least buying him a coffee, and Marcus, enchanted by the beauty and simplicity of this woman, accepted. They walked to a small cafe on the corner, where they talked for more than 2 hours. Isabella introduced herself, only as Bella, said she worked at a consulting company. And Marcus talked about his dreams of someday having his own business, maybe a small restaurant or a mechanic shop. Throughout the entire conversation, Isabella was impressed by Marcus's humility, intelligence, and kindness. He spoke passionately about his plans, even knowing that with his current salary, it would take decades to save enough money to invest. She realized that he wasn't interested in her for money or status, because he didn't even know who she really was. For the first time in years, Isabella felt seen as a person, not as a walking bank account. What Isabella didn't tell Marcus that afternoon was the real reason she was in that working-class neighborhood. She had escaped from a tense family meeting, where her father, the powerful businessman Roberto Montenegro, had announced that it was time for her to marry the son of another millionaire family to strengthen business ties. Isabella had protested, had shouted that she wasn't merchandise to be traded, and had stormed out of the family mansion in fury. She had dressed in the simplest clothes she could find and had walked aimlessly through the city, trying to feel like a normal person for once in her life. Now, pay attention to what's going to happen, because here, the story takes a turn you won't believe. Isabella decided to do something she had never done before in her life. She decided to test whether Marcus was really the kind person he seemed to be, or if he was just another gold digger in disguise. In the following days, Isabella began appearing in Marcus's life subtly. She found out where he lived, where he worked, and began observing him from afar, but not like a stalker, rather like someone who wanted to be absolutely sure about the character of the person who had saved her. She discreetly hired a private investigator to find out everything about Marcus's life, and what she discovered impressed her even more. Marcus sent money every month to his sick mother in the countryside, even though he earned very little. He had dropped out of school to work and support his family. He was often seen helping elderly neighbors with shopping and repairs. He was known in the boarding house where he lived as someone who always shared his food with those in need. The investigator also discovered details that deeply touched Isabella's heart. Marcus had been the best student in his high school class, had won a partial scholarship to university, but had to turn it down when his mother got sick and medical expenses consumed all the family savings. He had sold all his books, his computer, even his beloved guitar to pay for his mother's medications. And he had done all this without complaining, without blaming anyone, always maintaining a positive and hopeful attitude. Isabella then decided to appear again in Marcus's life, but this time with a plan. She disguised herself again with simple clothes and went to the place where he usually had lunch. She pretended she was looking for work and having financial difficulties. Marcus, without hesitation, offered half of his own lunch to her, and even gave her information about places where she could find work. Isabella was moved by such genuine kindness. During the following weeks, they began meeting regularly. Isabella, always with her secret identity, and Marcus increasingly in love with this mysterious woman who seemed to understand his dreams like no one else. They walked through public squares, talked at bus stops, ate at cheap little restaurants, and Marcus never minded not being able to offer more sophisticated places. Isabella was living the most authentic and happy moments of her life. But there was something else Isabella was discovering about herself. For the first time in her life, she was experiencing what it was like to live without the weight of extreme wealth. When she went out with Marcus, no one treated her differently. No one sought her favor. No one calculated how much money they could get from her. She was simply Bella, an ordinary girl who had met an extraordinary boy. This experience was changing her profoundly, making her question everything she had taken for granted in her privileged life. Marcus, for his part, was experiencing his first true love. He had had some previous relationships, but had always felt that girls pulled away when they realized his economic situation. With Bella, it was different. She seemed to value their conversations, his dreams, his way of seeing life. She never complained when they had to walk instead of taking a taxi, or when he could only treat her to cheap ice cream instead of an elegant dinner. In fact, she seemed to enjoy these simple moments more than any luxury she might have known. One afternoon, while walking through the Central Park, Marcus confessed to Isabella his most ambitious plans. He told her about his dream of opening a chain of restaurants that would serve quality home-cooked food at prices that working people could afford. He wanted to create jobs for people from his community, wanted to prove that you could be successful without exploiting employees. Isabella listened fascinated, not only by the passion with which he spoke, but by the social vision his plan had. It was exactly the type of project she had wanted to develop with her family's fortune, but had never found the right partner. But secrets don't last forever, and Isabella's was about to be revealed in the most unexpected way possible. Can you imagine how Marcus is going to react when he discovers the truth? And more importantly, do you think Isabella is right to hide who she really is? Leave your opinions in the comments, because this story is just starting to heat up. 1 month after their first meeting, Marcus was making a special delivery in an upscale area of the city when he saw a crowd of people and luxury cars in front of a gigantic building. It was the launch of a new venture by the Montenegro Group, and Isabella had been forced by her father to attend the event. She was on a stage, wearing a designer dress that cost more than Marcus's annual salary, giving a speech about the family company's new projects. Marcus stopped his bicycle and stood looking at that beautiful woman on stage, thinking about how she resembled his Bella. That's when it hit him. The hair, the smile, the voice, everything was identical. His Bella was Isabella Montenegro, one of the richest women in the country. Marcus felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. All the conversations they had had, all the moments he thought were genuine, everything had been a lie. He left there with a broken heart, feeling humiliated and deceived. How had he been so naive as to believe that a woman like that could genuinely be interested in someone like him? For days, Marcus avoided all the places where he used to meet Isabella. He felt used, as if he had been a guinea pig in some sociological experiment by a bored rich woman. The wound was so deep that Marcus began questioning everything about himself. Had he really been so pathetic that a billionaire had decided to play with him for fun? Had everything he felt been real? Or had he been manipulated from the beginning? He began working even more hours, trying to bury his pain in physical exhaustion. His co-workers noticed the change in him, but Marcus refused to talk about what had happened. Isabella, meanwhile, realized that Marcus had discovered her identity when he simply disappeared. She tried to find him, went to his boarding house, to the restaurants where he made deliveries, but Marcus completely avoided her. She then understood the damage her lie had caused. For the first time in her life, Isabella had found true love, and she was losing everything because of her own insecurity and distrust. What Isabella didn't expect was her family's reaction when they found out about her romantic adventure with a food delivery guy. Her father flew into a rage, threatened to disinherit her if she continued lowering herself with someone from the lower class. Her mother, though more understanding, reminded her of her social and family obligations. Her brothers mocked her, saying she had been the victim of a very clever gold digger. But all these reactions only confirmed for Isabella that Marcus was different. If he had been a gold digger, he would have appeared immediately after discovering her identity, trying to take advantage of the situation. The fact that he had fled proved that his feelings were genuine, and that he felt as betrayed as she feared he would feel. Desperate, Isabella decided to do something that shocked even her own family. She temporarily resigned from all her positions in the company, donated a gigantic amount to charity, and went to live in a simple apartment in the same neighborhood as Marcus. She got a regular job at a small accounting firm and began living like a normal person. Her intention was to prove to Marcus that her feelings were true. Regardless of the social differences between them, Isabella's transformation was radical. For the first time in her life, she had to wake up early to take public transportation, had to budget her expenses, had to cook her own food. At first it was difficult, but gradually she began to find a strange satisfaction in this simple life. There was something liberating about earning her own living, not depending on family money, being valued for her work and not for her last name. But Marcus continued avoiding Isabella. He had been deeply hurt and couldn't believe that someone with so much money could genuinely care about him. Besides, now he felt even more inadequate, knowing exactly who she was and how big the difference between their worlds was. What could he offer a woman who could have everything in the world? It was then that something happened that changed everything. Again, Marcus's mother had a serious health complication and needed expensive surgery that he could never afford. He was desperate, trying to get loans, selling everything valuable he had, but still was far from getting the necessary money. Desperation consumed him day and night. He watched his mother deteriorating and felt completely powerless. Isabella discovered the situation through mutual acquaintances in the neighborhood. Without Marcus knowing, she anonymously paid for all of his mother's surgery and treatment. She also left an additional amount so he could stay at the hospital for a few days, taking care of her without worrying about work. Marcus only discovered who had paid for everything when his mother, already recovered, told him that a young woman had appeared at the hospital asking about her condition and that there was something familiar about her. Marcus's mother, a wise woman who had spent her whole life observing people, immediately suspected that this mysterious benefactor had some special connection with her son. When Marcus described Bella to her, she immediately knew they were the same person. "Son," she told him, "a woman doesn't do what she did for a stranger. Only true love moves someone to such sacrifice." Hey, what do you think Marcus did when he discovered that Isabella had saved his mother? Do you think he finally understood that her feelings were true? Comment your theories, because the ending of this story is going to surprise all of you. Marcus finally sought out Isabella. He found her leaving her job at the accounting firm, still dressed in simple clothes, still living like an ordinary person. They talked for hours that night. Isabella explained that she had lied about her identity because she was tired of being sought after only for money, that she wanted to be sure that Marcus liked her for the person she was, not for what she possessed. She told him about all the times she had been used and deceived, about how difficult it was to trust people's intentions when you have so much money. Marcus, for his part, admitted that he had felt inferior and humiliated, that he thought she was playing with his feelings. But when she saved his mother, when she gave up her comfort to live a simple life beside him, Marcus understood that the love they felt for each other was real and transcended any social or financial difference. That night, walking through the same streets where they had met, Marcus and Isabella talked about their deepest fears. Marcus confessed that he had always feared not being enough for someone, that poverty had taught him to feel inferior. Isabella told him about the loneliness of being seen only as a bank account, about how her wealth had been a barrier to genuine relationships her entire life. Isabella then made a proposal that would change Marcus's life forever. She wanted him to become her partner in a new project, a network of popular restaurants that would offer quality food at accessible prices, employing people from needy communities, and giving opportunities to those who needed them. Marcus would be responsible for the operational part, since he knew the real needs of working people, while Isabella would take care of the financial and strategic part. Marcus accepted, but with one condition. He wanted to start from the bottom, learn every aspect of the business, prove that he deserved to be there, not for being the owner's boyfriend, but for his own competence. Isabella agreed, and they started. With a small restaurant in the neighborhood where Marcus lived, the success was immediate. The food was good, the prices fair, and the community embraced the project wholeheartedly. Within 2 years, they already had 15 restaurants spread throughout the city. Marcus had become a respected businessman, known for his fair practices, and for never having forgotten his origins. Isabella had found a greater purpose for her wealth, using it to create real opportunities for people who, like Marcus, just needed a chance. But the biggest change had happened between them, the love that began with an act of courage in a dark alley had grown and strengthened through all the difficulties. They had learned that true wealth isn't measured in money, but in the ability to transform lives, including one's own. On the day they completed 3 years together, Marcus surprised Isabella. He had saved money for months to buy a simple ring, but full of meaning. He proposed to her in the same cafe where they had first talked, at the same table where it all began. Isabella said yes through tears, not because he had become successful, but because he remained the same brave and kind man who had risked everything to save a stranger. Their wedding was different from everything high society expected. It was in the community where Marcus grew up, with food made by the employees of their own restaurants, live music by local artists, and a party that lasted all night. Isabella's wealthy family initially turned up their noses, but ended up being won over by the genuine joy and obvious love the couple shared. The wedding reception became a celebration of everything they had built together. Former delivery drivers Marcus had worked with were now managers in their restaurants. Young people from the community who had gotten their first jobs in their establishments gave emotional speeches about how the opportunity had changed their lives. Isabella's mother, who had initially opposed the relationship, was moved to tears, seeing how her daughter glowed with happiness. But the most touching moment of the night was when Marcus's mother took the microphone. She spoke about how proud she was of her son, not for the success he had achieved, but for the man he had remained. She thanked Isabella for seeing the good heart her son had always had, and for choosing love over social conventions. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. Today, 5 years after that encounter in the alley, Marcus and Isabella own one of the largest popular restaurant chains in the country. They employ more than 1,000 people, most coming from needy communities. Marcus's mother, completely recovered, works as a supervisor in one of the restaurants. Isabella uses her fortune to finance education and professional training programs. They've also started a foundation that provides scholarships for young people from low-income families who want to study business administration. Every year, they personally interview scholarship candidates, looking for the same spark of determination they see in each other. Many of these young people have gone on to open their own businesses, creating a ripple effect of opportunities throughout the community. But perhaps their most innovative project is the Second Chances program, where they partner with local prisons to provide culinary training for inmates nearing release. Many of these men and women have found not just jobs, but careers and dignity in their restaurant kitchens. It's Isabella's way of extending the same compassion Marcus showed her that rainy afternoon. giving people a chance to prove their worth. Regardless of their past, the couple has also faced challenges that tested their relationship. There was a period when competitors tried to sabotage their business, spreading rumors that their success was only due to Isabella's family money. Marcus struggled with insecurity during this time, wondering if people would ever see him as more than the delivery boy who married the heiress. Isabella supported him through this difficult period, and together, they decided to be completely transparent about their story, doing interviews and writing a book about their journey. Their book, Love Beyond Barriers, became a bestseller, with proceeds going entirely to their foundation. But more than the commercial success, the book inspired countless people to look beyond social and economic differences in their relationships. They receive hundreds of letters from couples who found hope in their story, from single mothers who saw possibility in Marcus's journey, from wealthy young people who learned from Isabella's example that true happiness comes from genuine connections, not material possessions. But the most important thing is that they proved that true love doesn't know social class, that the courage of a kind heart can open doors that money alone never could, and that sometimes saving someone means actually saving yourself. Their love story started with Marcus risking his physical safety to protect Isabella, but it became a story of two people saving each other from the emotional prisons they had built around their hearts. They now have twin daughters, Maria and Sophia, who are growing up understanding both worlds their parents came from. The girls spend summers working in the restaurants, learning the value of hard work from their father's example. They also participate in charity events, learning from their mother's philanthropic spirit. But most importantly, they're being raised to see people for who they are inside, not for what they have or where they come from. Marcus often tells his daughters the story of how he met their mother, emphasizing that the most important moment wasn't when he saved her from the attackers, but when he chose to help a stranger without expecting anything in return. That, he tells them, is when your real character shows, when no one is watching and there's nothing to gain. Isabella, for her part, teaches her daughters that privilege comes with responsibility. She shows them how their family's wealth can be a tool for good, but warns them never to let it become a barrier between them and genuine relationships. She often takes them to visit the communities where their restaurants operate, not as charity visits, but as reminders of the real world where most people live and the importance of staying connected to it. The family has also established a tradition of anonymously helping families in crisis. Just as Isabella once helped Marcus's mother, they maintain a network of social workers and community leaders who identify families in need, and they provide assistance without fanfare or recognition. It's their way of paying forward the chain of kindness that brought them together. What's remarkable about Marcus and Isabella's story is how it continues to evolve. They're not just a successful couple who overcame social differences. They've become a force for positive change in their community and beyond. Their restaurants have become training grounds for young entrepreneurs. Their foundation has sent hundreds of students to college, and their example has inspired other wealthy families to use their resources more meaningfully. Recently, they've expanded internationally, opening restaurants in other countries and adapting their model to local conditions. But they've maintained their core principle, providing quality food at prices working families can afford, while creating dignified employment opportunities for people who might otherwise be overlooked by traditional businesses. Their marriage isn't perfect. They still have disagreements about business decisions. They sometimes struggle with the demands of their busy lives, and they've had to work through the unique challenges that come with their different backgrounds. but they've built their relationship on a foundation of mutual respect, shared values, and genuine love that goes far beyond surface attractions or material considerations. What do you think of this story? Do you believe that love can really overcome such great differences? Have you ever been in a situation where a small act of kindness changed everything? Tell your stories in the comments, like if you enjoyed this narrative, and share it with someone who needs to believe that life can change completely with a single act of courage. Because in the end, we all have the power to be the hero in someone's story, just as Marcus was the hero of Isabella's story, and she became the hero of his.